moderator today. I believe our meeting today is the Kingdom Youth Program, as discussed by Maestra Jervel.
Yeah.
I will hand it off to you.
Good morning, everybody. This is less a formal presentation or a talk and more of a question and answer session. If I can help anybody get youth started in their area, how to run a youth practice, or any concerns people have.
Well, do you want to start off with maybe an introduction of the requirements for the Kingdom Youth Program, that sort of thing?
Sure. In order to be a youth marshal, you have to have your youth background check done. And you need to have other unrelated adults in your area there as well. You have to follow the 2-Deep program, and that's very important, or 2-Deep policy. And you need to talk to either myself or Master Eric to get, once you get your background check done, to get approved to be a youth marshal. And you do not have to be an authorized fencer to do that, although it is helpful if you're going to be teaching youth to do rapier yourself. And then it's just keeping track of records. And we have recommendations for which armor to help youth get started.
If I may ask, the requirements for the armor and stuff, is that on a document somewhere findable?
Yeah, well, technically it follows the same rules as apply to the adults. No, there is no kind of cheat sheet other than email me and I will tell you where I get my stuff from for the youth. And it's mostly going through Absolute Fencing. They have some fantastic starter kits for minors. But yeah, for youth, I recommend just getting some modern Olympic armor and just throwing some kind of T-tunic, less ugly thing on top.
Sure. Thank you very much. I noticed we're talking about fencing. Does that include armored or heavy as well, or no?
We do not have youth heavy right
Okay.
now.
Cool. Awesome.
Yep,
Thank you.
we're mostly looking for someone to step up and take charge of youth heavy. There were rules proposed. There just didn't seem to be a lot of interest in actually getting that program off the ground. So youth heavy right now is boffer weapons. And that was actually an important point with the youth program, was to not stop children from being kids and playing. So we still very much encourage all youths to do boffer fighting. And I think there's guidelines on how to make boffers, but I lost track of those. Basically, the foam weapons without any kind of armor or masks or anything. That make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Sorry.
Sure. And I see you are from Kerta. As far as I know, Kerta hasn't officially started a youth program.
To my knowledge, no. I mean, the only kid we really have is Tahir's kid Ivy, and Tahir is kind of walking her through how to do fencing and stuff. So we don't really have a huge population of kids to try to bring into the sport.
Okay. There were a bunch who were interested. I know there's Doman's son Tobias was also interested. So I do encourage you to have someone volunteer to be the official youth marshal there. It's not any harder than running a regular practice. So that way Ivy can officially fight at the practices.
Okay. We'll see what I can do.
Okay. It goes from, what is it, 6? I hate quoting rules without them in front of me. I believe it's 6 all the way up to 17. And how it's written as, once a youth becomes authorized in adult or regular rapier, they've considered to be aged out of the youth program. and they can still be marshals and teachers, but they are no longer able to participate in any kind of youth tournaments. Because once a child is 14, they are allowed to participate in adult rapier. Or they can stay in the youth program until they're 18. It's up to them. You're talking about epes versus schlagers? Yeah, because kids can't do cut and thrust. That depends on their age. Let's. The young children, Division 1 and 2, are epee only, light rapier only. Division 3, they are able to play with the schlagers, or heavy rapiers, and also still with the epes if they wish. It's just not physically safe for little kids to hold the heavy rapiers. It's too much strain on their tendons and stuff.
Makes sense. And for the so you just mentioned the divisions there. Can you elaborate more on those?
We roughly divide the kids into, society has it in 3 divisions, and Outlands puts it into 4 divisions. Just try to keep it a little safer or more fair for the youth. And the divisions are pretty much treated as guidelines. Like Division 1 is for ages 6 to 9. Divisions 2, ages 10 to 12, 3 is 13 to 15, and 4 is 16 to 17. So when we do tournaments in particular, we only want kids in one division to fight other kids in that same division. Now, if your kid is particularly large or small for their age, they can be shifted up or down a division at the discretion of the youth marshals and the marshal in charge. We don't want a 17-year-old just clobbering a 6-year-old in the tournament.
The Division 2, you said that was 10 to 13?
10 to 12.
10 to 12, thank you.
And that came from kind of following what Modern Olympic does, and also talking to people who do a lot of the teaching of youth, that we broke it down into 4 just because there's such a big growth spurts that happen between ages of 12 and 17. We felt another division was helpful. There's also weapons recommendations based on those divisions. That the younger kids use the number 0 epes just because they're shorter and lighter. But those are just recommendations. They don't have to follow those.
So, for the 6 to 10 or 6 to 9 division, it's a number 0 epee, which I'm assuming is just a lighter, shorter epee.
Correct.
Okay.
You see, and that's it's page 5 of the youth addendums. Yeah, Division 1, they recommend a number 0. Division 2, they recommend a number 2 or number 5. And 13 to 17 is a number 5. And they can also move up to heavy rapier if they wish.
Awesome. Cool. Sorry, I'm writing a novel while you're talking, trying to catch all the weapons and stuff. So
yeah, you can go to the Outlands website in the library, and the youth rules are there. There's a whole section on weapons and pairing devices. They all list them out there.
awesome.
Yeah, standard epées come in number 0, number 2, number 4, number 5. Number 0 is 30 inches, and number 5 is 35 inches. So there's not a huge difference, but it's enough when you're very new and young and your arms aren't very strong yet.
If
So
I
when you
may
start,
ask,
sure,
oh, sorry, go for it.
go ahead. I was just going to ramble on some new topic, but go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if you guys had a large population of kids going for your guys' side of things.
Well, I'm in Kerta,
Oh, okay.
so I just don't go to Kerta's practice very often because the timing is very inconvenient. So I go up to Cairgalen a bunch.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
when we went out and did the polling about 2 years ago, uh, Tahir had found a big group of kids who had shown they were interested, but that was 2 years ago. And it just word hasn't spread. We haven't really announced and started advertising much for it. So we haven't
Mm-hmm.
really seen participation yet, but we're hoping to over this summer in particular, um, that will pick up. I'm talking to people right now to try to get and on the schedule for Battlemore as well, and that should help.
Definitely.
So we talked about the divisions. Those are mostly with the intent of tournaments, right? Is there similar restrictions for who can fight who during a regular practice?
During sparring, we encourage divisions to stay within their divisions. Um, but we recognize that since there's only a handful of kids at practice, that may not be possible. We just expect the higher divisions, the older kids, to follow the weapons and calibration of the younger kids.
And how about cross training with the adult fighters?
Um, there is a difference between sparring and training, right? And sparring is when an adult strikes a kid. And all sparring has to be done with the marshal present. And that's at the discretion of the marshal right now. Um, if the adult has to play at the calibration of the kid. But there are no other restrictions past that. So I was going to start talking about maybe start getting kids at practice and want to start training them um, to keep it in, I'd say about half an hour long sessions, and then having a break and then coming back and doing another half hour if they are interested, and keeping it more game oriented, particularly for the young, for divisions 1 and 2, um, to learn footwork through things like racing, through advances and lunges down the court, and playing glove games to help them learn the range, and more physically active, fun type activities and less rigid. Here, stand on guard. Here's exactly how you parry, and that type of training. So, does anybody have any ideas of how we can work on recruitment for children to get them more interested and start seeing that participation go up?
So I know um, down here in Alberon, we've had a few occasions where we've actually had demos at schools.
Mhm.
Um, and I think dropping knowledge of that youth rapier program and being able to say, here are the ranges, here's what you need, would be a useful thing for recruiting at those kinds of events.
Mhm. So Drigstan, I know, has Mistress Brigitta there who's approved a youth marshal. Does Alberon have anybody willing to step up for that?
I thought Genevieve was.
Okay. I need to check in and see if she actually got approved or not. But yeah, having someone in place and ready to go, saying show up to practice next week and to not lose that spark once you guys find it. I don't know if there's any places you could do a demo, like outside a park where the children often are. I was thinking outside, like if you knew there was a soccer league going on. I mean, just having a practice next to where that's going might get some attention. Do you think of any activities like that?
Well, for Kirta, we're going to be moving outside in here in about a month or so, and the park we go to, there's a whole bunch of adults and walking around with their kids and stuff, so that might help for at least Kirta's. But for other baronies, I would say, yeah, if you could get to a populated park and just do like an event, would that work?
Yeah, and just have someone with some flyers, just for the essay in general, or specifically with our youth program highlighted. Just a couple of blurbs. Here's what we do. Here's our website. Here's a contact. Come play.
We've also had a fundraising event here in Elberon, um, which was just held at a local festival where we did a fight night where kids would come and fight various
Mhm.
people with boffers. The idea of the fighters that they're fighting taking a fall, but
Yeah,
it was a fun and kind of silly way to get kids interested.
true.
That's another
Um,
location where you can drop that information on youth fencing.
yeah, and at demos, I mean, um, you can bring boffers and let them, you know, whack a mod um, at those demos. That gets rid of some of the liability of putting them in the armor, or you can bring armor too and let them full blown fence if they don't seem too crazy.
I guess kind of depends on the size of the demo.
Hmm. Yeah, letting them giving them a weapon or a boffer, put them in their hands and letting them play. That would help get them stuck too. And we have the Celtic Festival up in, what is it, Longmont? So we should make sure people are there. I'll make a note, reach out to somebody for that. Have a youth person at that festival.
Yeah, we have one of those out here too.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you guys do demos at the Ren Fair, right?
I'm not sure why we don't. I haven't seen any traffic on that for the past few years. Um, it's something I know my wife was our chatelaine is probably going to look into at some point soon.
Okay. Well, no. One of the southern groups at least used to, but I think they had a falling out.
I know Naroon and White Mountain both have Ren fairs that they go to regularly.
Okay. Yeah, having somebody there who it's good at talking to kids and getting them excited could help draw the whole family in. That was part of this point of really trying to get the rapier program, youth rapier program going.
And I can think another problem with getting any group really going is the availability of loaner gear.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Each barony will have to buy a couple of sets. And if there is any problems doing that, definitely reach out to myself or Master Eric, and we can help share stuff around. I know I've got a whole box of epes down in the basement that were donated previously for this program. I just don't know who needs them, who wants them. We can definitely help get groups outfitted and ready to go for that. And you can definitely make your own armor. I mean, just like the adults can. You just need to buy the mask, gorget, sword.
I was
So
just going to ask about the heavy gear for kids, but thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
yeah, Heather is asked in the chat, does hockey or lacrosse gear work for youth armored combat?
It has to meet SCA armor standards. And honestly, lacrosse gear is going to be overkill. What exactly does it say here?
But yeah,
Yeah,
particularly
all youth
for
rapier
rapier, right?
combatants. Yeah, all youth rapier combatants must meet the minimum standards detailed in the Outlands rapier rules. That's society.
So, going back to something we touched on briefly at the beginning. So,
Mhm,
the process for becoming a youth marshal.
mhm.
So, you mentioned, it requires a background check, and uh, can you elaborate more on that too deep policy that you were talking about?
The too deep policy says whenever adults are interacting with children, there need to be um, essentially two witnesses who are unrelated to each other, and one of them must have their SCA background check. And that's for um, modern law. I mean, the Boy Scouts follow this. Modern Olympic practices follow this. An adult is not supposed to be alone with a kid ever, unless it's their own child. That makes sense?
It does.
Okay.
Is there any test of knowledge of the uh, rule set for becoming a youth marshal?
Yeah. I mean, the same way that we would test you to be a adult marshal, we test that you know the rules pretty thoroughly, and that you're able to recognize safe versus unsafe behaviors, and you're able to control the field and stop a fight. Your marshal does not have to be your teacher. They just need to be the person there who's overseeing the safety of everybody on the field. And so, if you're familiar at all with the process to become a adult marshal, um, it's going to be the same thing plus a little bit of do you have the patience to work with children? And that's not written down anywhere, but that's one of the things that right now either myself or Master Eric would talk to you about, and kind of how to maintain some control and discipline of kids that we don't ask for a traditional adult marshal. That's just kind of a common sense check.
And you mentioned that there's records that also have to be kept if you're a youth marshal, right?
Mhm. Yeah, similar records to what the night marshal already keeps. How many youth were at the practice? Who was your background checked person? Um, who was your second adult there?
Is there a form on Barony websites that have where that's a template for that?
Master Eric was working on those. Um,
Okay.
as far as I know, there's nothing officially got done other than just include it in your reports that go to him and then CC them to me.
Roger, Roger.
Okay, and also any of the experimental, any experiments going on and any reduced armor, those do not apply to youth. So no experimenting on the kids.
Yes, don't hurt the kids. We want them to come back.
Paperwork, and
So
then there's paperwork.
Exactly, it's not worth the paperwork.
definitely not. So that means maximums for kids.
uh,
I mean, the minimums are the minimum for everybody if
mhm.
they choose to do it, but the maximums are what? Full coverage of backs, chest, full leg armor, or
Yes.
am I missing something? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of people doing the reduced armor um, in adult rapier, and the kids cannot do that. Not
Yeah.
yet, anyway.
Once they become teenagers, they can decide how crazy they want to be.
Mhm. The kids are also very restricted as to what offhands they can use.
Can you elaborate?
I'm trying to. Yes, let me get to exactly where that is. Yep, Division 1, which is ages 6 to 9, is light rapiers only. They can use any weapon, any epee they like, but we recommend size 0. And when you get to Division 2, then they can start using their defensive secondaries. Division 3 and 4, they may bring in daggers, but not case. Division 1 also allows foils, but we're discouraging that and trying to just get them to use epees. Because epees can't fight foils, and the older kids are not allowed to use foils. So in the rules it says SC legal foil blades are permitted for Division 1, but we're discouraging that for practical reasons at practices and tournaments.
Now, for Division 2, you said defensive secondaries. Does that include a cloak, or is that more specifically like a buckler, or
Any
how are
defensive
you defining
secondary.
that? Any? Okay.
Mhm.
So for daggers, are there specifically light rapier daggers, or are these the full heavy rapier ones?
I mean, there's restrictions on the keones that are allowed for light rapiers versus heavy rapiers, but that's the only distinction.
So same kind of blade length or blade type.
Mhm. Yeah, you can't have the daggers with the really aggressive keyones. Those cannot be used against light rapiers. But like this, the standard dagger with like the big saber guards, those are great. Let's see. There's also a restriction on melees. I believe Division 3 and 4 can do melees, but 1 and 2 cannot. Excuse me, kitty. Yes, 3 and 4 may participate in melee.
What was Division 4? Isn't that basically adult authorized fighter? Or
once you're an adult authorized fighter, you are no longer in the youth program.
Oh, okay. So what is Division 4?
Division 4 is kids who are old enough to be in the adult program, but aren't.
Not authorized, okay.
Yeah, Division 4 is ages 16 to 17.
16 and 17, okay.
And parents have to be at any of these practices, right?
That depends on the division and exactly what that means. I believe it's Division 1 or 2. The parents must be within eyesight of them at all times. And Division 3 and 4, they just must be on site. And the behavior of the parents is something we should be noted here. The parents have to behave. We want to discourage like the uber competitive soccer mom stereotype. Any kind of poor sportsmanship on the parents' part will get them a warning. And if that behavior continues, the parent will be asked to leave. And usually that means the child has to leave as well. Because if the parent must be within eyesight of the kid and the parent gets kicked off, they're no longer within eyesight, the kid has to go as well.
Have you guys had to deal with that any, or at least at Kerguelen practices, I should ask?
Mm-hmm.
How is that dealt with?
We haven't had any occurrences yet. But
okay, well,
the theory is, one, they have to read the rules, and it's very clear at the top of the rules that their comportment is important. And so the first occurrence would be just a verbal warning. Then a second occurrence would be just removal for the day. Then it would escalate the same way any other incident would be reported through the Marshallete.
Three strikes, awesome. Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume it's kind of similar target areas, right?
Exactly the same as adult rapier. With the qualifier of we do not allow death from behind in melees with youth. But we're trying to keep them the same calibration. Get hit in the hand, you lose the limb. If you get hit in the legs, you got to fight from your knees. And even though we're using epes, the idea is kind of to train them as if they're holding a rapier in their hand, and not to teach them modern flicks and other techniques that won't work with rapiers. So the idea is to get them ready for adult rapier. So even though there are things that work better with rapiers than with epées. We're kind of going to pretend that the little kids are holding a rapier and not an epée, and teach them. So when they get to Division 4, where they age out, that they're ready to go right out the gate. They don't have to relearn things to do rapier.
Right. And I assume with that comes you want to use more of the French grip style épées rather than like a pistol grip.
Correct. Yeah, they have to have a doctor's note to use the pistol grip.
If I may ask why?
Because the SCA does not allow pistol grips.
Oh, did not know that. Interesting.
At least they didn't used to. I haven't honestly checked that rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Orthopedic or pistol grips will not be used unless the fighter has approval for medical reasons. Society also allows for plastic weapons, which the Outlands chose not to participate in. We determined it was actually harder to maintain control of a practice with the rapier weapons. The kids treated them too much like toys. And even though the plastic weapons had a lesser armor requirement and the barrier to entry was lower, it just wasn't worth the hassle of keeping plastic weapons.
Also, did the plastic weapons ever degrade faster? Well, obviously they would, but did they break and were basically more trouble than they were worth on maintenance side of things?
Not really. The people I've talked to who use the ripper weapons think they're great. There's definitely not a safety reason not to use them.
Good to know.
A lot of that decision came from talking to Master Tom, who's done a lot of teaching of youth, and with Don Triffin, as well as modern Olympic instructors.
Would you say there's any little bit of knowledge or uncommon knowledge that would be best to be a youth marshal?
Required? No. I mean, teaching kids is a thing you definitely have to want to do. It's very much like herding cats, and it's more of a, do you have the patience and the fun to keep them engaged and focused without losing their respect and having them start, epic whipping each other in line.
As kids would be one to do.
Right. So if you have any experience with kids at all, there's they're just tiny adults in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mentioned earlier, when you teach, trying to do some of the classes, keeping it games oriented helps with that.
Any games that, well, you don't want them to be doing tag, but what games would you be pushing for them to engage with weapons?
Well, there is a tag oriented game done with gloves.
Oh, really?
Where
Okay.
I can show you practice. It's the glove game. One kid, but they both have gloves, and you have an attacker and a defender. The attacker's trying to hit the other kid with a glove, but the attacker gets one lunge, and they can advance as many times, but then they get to lunge and try to hit their opponent with a glove. And then once they've lunged, if they miss, their attack is done, and it is now the other kid's turn to attack. So you get this very quick back and forth lunge, and get out of the way, and before the other kid comes back.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I can make a point of getting to Carita sometime soon and showing you that game.
That'd be awesome if you could.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if Tahir knows that or not. In theory, he knows that. We've played that before.
Huh. Okay.
But that game teaches good footwork, it teaches range, it teaches timing. Because if your opponent's too far away, you might throw away your attack, just lunge, even though you're not going to hit. Or you could back your opponent out of the strip doing something like that.
Yeah, it really takes me back to my Olympic days.
Yeah. Honestly, steal a lot of their stuff. I mean, it works.
Reason they do it.
Like I say, just reach out to me or Master Eric with any and all questions or hesitations or problems you have, because we're super excited to get this out and going. And if you're stuck on something like, I want to do this, but we don't have the funds to get the loaner gear set up, or I have no idea how to run a practice, definitely reach out. Resources are there. Sometimes we're just very quiet.
Definitely will do. I'll shoot you the email when we start planning stuff like that for Kirta.
Okay, definitely.
All right.
Or we can do like a giant road trip and get Kerta and Kergale into the same youth-oriented practice, just to consolidate experience.
That'd be optimal.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jervel.
You're welcome.
I'll